See, the most important thing is that you see, you can say whatever you want to say about the interview Semi Jamfi granted or the discussion he had. The fact remains that a higher standard is required of the leader of the judiciary,
right,
the Chief Justice. So you cannot use commentary of citizens of the Republic of Ghana that clearly you would consider a breach of the rules of the in-camera proceedings and proceed on the basis of that alleged breach to justify your own breach when you ought to have known better.
right.
So her justification that the petitions are already in the public domain and people are proceeding to run commentary on same, and for which reason she also proceeded as Chief Justice to do same, must not be entertained by any well-thinking Ghanaian. Especially so when she is the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, suspended though, and ought to have known better. A higher standard is required of her. Is Sami Jamfi given privileges of traveling with family and the tickets being paid for by the state? She has that privilege. Why does she have that privilege? Because a higher standard is expected of her. So she cannot proceed on the basis of such flimsy excuse that is already in the public domain and discussed by Ghanaians, and for which reason she is excused to break the law. What kind of reasoning is this? And this is a lady entrusted with justice delivery in our country. And she says something profound, even in the statement, that she never knew that this was the kind of injustice the system exudes. Where was she? Does she have an idea how frustrated Ghanaians are when it comes to using our court systems? Clearly. So she was even absent-minded in terms of the responsibilities that we entrusted on her to do. In any case, in the entire rendition, she was unable to point out a single evidence that indeed the law has been breached as far as its application to her is concerned. She was not able to. She even proceeded to question the local standing of Daniel Ofori in some of the allegations that he raised. Moro. And that was, again, one low lamentation of the Chief Justice.
Right.
Because it is established in law that when it comes to many of these provisions, including Article 146, the petitioner does not need to have a personal interest in the matter to be able to raise it as an allegation against you. And that decision is clearly captured in the Frank Ajetum case. And if the Chief Justice was minded to read that decision, she would have come to the conclusion that Daniel Ofori needed not to demonstrate a personal interest in the allegations that she raised against her.
Right.
On the basis of which a prima facie determination was made by the President in consultation with the Council of State. So, you understand why the framers of the Constitution was careful not to grant public hearings to such proceedings. Because if you are not a lawyer and you are not a legal person, and the Chief Justice, who is supposed to know better, is subjecting judicial decisions to such low simply because she simply does not have an idea of many of these holdings, how would your confidence level be if you are to appear in the future before such a Chief Justice, who clearly seems not to even appreciate that when it comes to local standing of people, of petitioners, they need not to demonstrate personal interest. When the Frank Ajetum case clearly says that you don't need such personal interest to be demonstrated. She doesn't know that. So, for me, that is why I'm saying that the Chief Justice did so much harm to herself yesterday, and indeed provided justification for her removal from office, if you ask me. She is talking about the leaking of the petitions, and my brother also made reference to that and sought to create the impression that it was leaked by Sami Jemfi. That is another falsehood. Mother, we were on this platform when hardcore evidence of leakage of the petition was brought to our attention. Remember, it was published live by Asasi Radio. And they proceeded to publish the responses of the suspended Chief Justice. Everyone knows the political leanings of Asasi Radio and the ownership structure of that entity. Do you think that an NDC administration will be that careless to leak such a petition to Asasi Radio to publish? And even before that, when she demanded for copies of the petition from the president had cause to caution her in his letter to her that she should try as much as possible not to leak those petitions too. Because she had done, remember that when she wrote the letter requesting for the petition, even before the presidency could take delivery of the letter was already out, published by Asasi Radio again. Even after that admonition by His Excellency the President, the petitions were leaked.
Right.
Clearly. We do not need a soothsayer to tell us who leaked those petitions to Asasi Radio. Especially when she appears to be working closely with the former Attorney General, Godfrey Dami. And that is why last night, the only justification that came to mind, as far as the action was concerned, was clearly to give the NPP some reprieve, or a breathing space, I should say. Because we all know that for some time now, the internal politics of the NPP has occupied our political discourse.
Carry your own cross.
Because of the privileged positions of the likes of the former Attorney General,
okay,
and knowing the modus operandi of your political party, I came to one conclusion, that indeed maybe the NPP decided to use her as an effective diversionary system so that at least we give them some breathing space and concentrate more on these issues.
Okay.
And they decided to activate their channels using the likes of the former Attorney General. So, Boro, as for the NDC and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, I can assure you that if at the end of the day the committee is of the view that the Chief Justice has done absolutely nothing wrong, President Mahama will revoke the suspension and allow her to go back to her office. But in any case, why is the woman crying as though a decision has already been reached as far as the process is concerned?
You haven't read the document?
A decision has not been reached.
Okay.
And I am told that she has gone to the High Court for judicial review. When she made her first application to the Supreme Court, and I read her supporting affidavit, on another sister station with one of their lawyers, I raised the concern as to whether indeed that application ought to be entertained by the Supreme Court, because she came under the inherent jurisdiction of the Supreme Court.
Right.
Of course. And the Supreme Court has that power. But reading it, I realized that she was raising human rights issues. And so I cautioned. I remember on that platform that from where I sit, I was of the view that the appropriate forum should have been the High Court. So I'm glad that today she has gone to the High Court. But what she has done to herself, unfortunately, is that with her decision to go to the Supreme Court first, and the Supreme Court determination that because of the in-camera nature of the proceedings, it will be difficult for them to proceed on many of the issues that she raised. That is why the Supreme Court decided to strike out that supporting affidavit. And proceeded to say that it constituted an affront to Article 1468. I'm now wondering, with that decision that applies to the High Court, how the High Court would be able to meander its way through. But I wish her well. She's a mother and a grandmother, I am told. And if she's exonerated, why not? We'll all come out and congratulate her. But from where I sit, Moro, I will be hugely surprised if she's exonerated, because her conduct yesterday in itself
Okay.
should be enough
Okay.
for us to show her the exit. And
All
I
right.
know you agree with me.
Oh,
No, I
that
don't.
conduct is
Then you
You don't
don't
agree
agree
with
to me all along.
No, but I know you are doing politics.
This man is like is in an island of his
Anyway,
own.
No, I know you are doing
No,
politics.
you
but
are
in
doing
principle,
politics.
in
You
principle,
are doing
no,
politics.
in all of this,
You are mistaking me to be like you.
I have huge admiration for your husband. I mean, he follows everywhere.